Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're very excited to have you join us this morning on a chilly morning here in Charlottesville, Virginia. But the sun is out. There's the fresh air, the nice crisp wind. So it's
I said over the last week or so, right? I've had like 3 or 4 conversations with clients, and every single one of them has told me that they're beginning to enjoy outdoors again, and just people just love the fact that the sun doesn't set as early and comes up a little early. You know, just having that sun out a little longer in daylight just makes you, that energy level just begins to pick up in you, right?
Oh, exactly. I think the sun is a major, for me at least, it's a major factor in my,
it's like Superman.
my energy level.
Like Superman, he just goes out there, goes like this, and all of a sudden, boom, he's strong again.
I'll take that.
We all would.
So it's for me, yeah, it's important. It just gives you so much vibrancy.
Yeah, it does.
When you open your eyes in the morning and there's some light coming through as opposed to darkness. So, you know, and then I think it, you know, encourages people to go out, do more, check out some fun
Always,
things.
yeah. I mean, it's always much more fun, right, when it's a little warmer in daylight, or even if you get home, it's like, oh, I got to go out. No big deal. You get home, you change, you do what you have to do, and you go out. In the winter, you get home, it's already dark, it's already cold. It's like, I think I'd rather just cuddle up on the sofa, read a book, or, you know, watch a program, whatever it may be.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's, and, you know, I mean, Charlottesville is a place where there's always something going on. So there's always a lot to go out and do and see.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's...
Exactly.
Yeah, if there wasn't, we wouldn't have a show. If there weren't a lot of things to do, we would have run out of guests about 2 years ago or something like that. So we're excited to be here. Thrilled, of course, to be on the I Love CVille Network set with Judah behind the camera. A couple thanks, of course, to our presenter, Emergent Financial Services, to our great partners, Matthias, Realty, Craddock, Serious Insurance, Forward, Adelante. We appreciate them all tuning in and joining us. We've got some great guests that are going to be coming in this morning. We're going to be joined shortly by David McCormick from the Early Music Access Project, and later in the show by Emily Hartka, co-founder and director at Charlottesville Ballet. So
I just want to say one other thing before we get going, right? So my beautiful wife, notice I said, you know, the words. I used the appropriate words. I'm getting brownie points here. My beautiful wife watches lately a lot of YouTube on things that she enjoys, right? Whether it be cooking or sewing or whatever it may be, right? And it's funny because no matter what she watches, they're always saying, because I know I'm supposed to say that, they're always saying, and if you like this show, and they do this, they go, you know, hit the like and share button. Of course, on the TV and the YouTube, there's no like and share button. I guess only on the computer. So I'm watching, I said, what are we supposed to press? There's nothing to press here, right? So, but anyway, for this show, please like, share, and subscribe.
Yep, exactly. Well, if you're on Facebook, the like button is right there. Yeah. And it's more important than I think people realize, because Facebook is not a super intuitive thing. In other words, if you don't hit like, I can't know that you're watching. It doesn't tell me. I can see like that there's a bunch of eyeballs watching, but if you never click like, when I said, I mean literally, there's like a little eyeball symbol on Facebook, and it tells me you got like this many people watching. But if you don't click like, I can't know it's you, so I can't give you the shout out. You know, because I've had people come up to us at events and say, oh yeah, I watch your show every week. And I sit there and I'm like, I don't tell this to them, right? But I'm thinking, I feel bad because I have no idea who you are, because you never clicked like, so I have no idea that you've been watching the show prodigiously. And otherwise I'd give you a shout out. I'd be like, you know, this is our fantastic viewer, so-and-so. So be sure to do that. This way I can give you a shout out. And,
when you said eyes, I can think in the Luis Buñuel eye, you know.
Oh, the artistic... Yeah. The artistic eye. You know, I was thinking the old back in the day when before the .com bubble, that instead of, because all those companies in the .com bubble had negative price to earnings ratio because they didn't make any money.
Exactly.
So they were like, no, price to eyeball is the new ratio. So even though this company makes no money, it's valued $8 for every eyeball that visits the internet website, right? And that didn't work out too well for them. So you should not buy a company based on price to eyeball ratio, because that can go bad quickly.
That's right.
But shout out, UVA did win last night.
Oh, they did. So thank goodness. Okay.
Nicholas and I, we managed to pull the magic out again last week.
Okay.
We
so are you putting pressure on me or something? Being that I'm on the show and are they playing this week or something?
Every time we gripe on the show that you guys are playing well, they come out and then they win again. So we
they played Boston College last night, right?
They played Boston College last night, and they did manage to win. To pull out the win.
Okay.
But we're still going to gripe that they can play better. This way they'll win again at Duke.
They could play better.
We need that.
Oh, that's right. Ooh, Duke. Okay.
That would be nice. That would make our season. So just a little shout out there.
Okay.
And I don't know about you, but I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
Music,
ballet, dance.
Some of my favorite things.
It makes you talk about some makes you feel good. Music and dancing makes you feel just as good.
Exactly. We have two great organizations that are going to be joining us on today's show with upcoming events. So you can,
which is why they're here, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, as you learn about them. It's not like you learn about them like, oh man, I have to wait a year to go see the next season.
It's soon.
No, there is some upcoming stuff. So we're excited to welcome first to the show this morning, David McCormick from the Early Music Access Project. David, thanks so much for coming back on.
It's great to be here again.
Always love having you on. So for those new to the program, because I think it's been a little bit, and we've definitely got some new viewers. Tell us a little about remind us what is Early Music Access Project? When people hear that early music, what should they be thinking of?
Yeah, a lot of people think that I work with preschoolers. we occasionally do concerts for kids, but actually what early music is usually, it is music of like the medieval, Renaissance, or Baroque period, and we are playing on reproductions or original instruments of that time to really recreate that sound world. And the project, Early Music Access Project, is about bringing that music to as many people locally as possible and doing it in interesting ways. We often do collaborations or sort of experimental things, things that you might not get to hear or see other places around town.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think a great example of this, right, because, you've got, I think sometimes people tend to lump all classical music together. So when when you tell them, no, there's a difference between like medieval and Baroque and like Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and later, they're like, man, I don't know what that could possibly be. But I think a great example of this is what was recently one of your recent performances, which was Cupid and Death, and it's a masque, MAQUE. Tell us a little bit about that and what it is and how it happens. Because I think that will kind of give people an idea that this is not the same as going and watching a symphony.
Yeah, this was really fun. So an English masque is basically opera, but not quite. So it's right before sort of opera had its heyday. And there's a lot of spoken dialogue, which you don't find in opera. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what was really cool about this is that we got to do it at the Blackfriars Theater in Stanton, which is just the perfect venue for an English masque. It's the right time period, it's the right venue, and we really did it up with full costumes and dancers and actors and singing and a small Baroque orchestra and all of it. It was really fun, and it sort of brought. It's a great example of what we do because it brought a bunch of different elements together in collaboration, including the folks at Mary Baldwin University who are studying Shakespeare and performance, who were extremely excited about the librettist for this English masque, James Shirley. There were two folks that were like, oh, I know the guy who's working on the complete works of James Shirley. And I was like, wow, that is even nerdy for me.
So basically it's almost like going to see, because I think people you think of opera and you think, okay, they sing through the whole dramatic story. But this was almost like going to see a play with music and songs kind of interwoven throughout it in a sense.
Yeah, it's like if Shakespeare wrote musicals.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes, like the musicals of today, right? Or not really today, but of the like the one that the opera had last year.
Oh, George Opera had last year had the Guys and Dolls.
Yeah, so it's that kind of thing where there's the talking 60s. and then comes music, but only in the antique times, the early times.
Yeah,
in a different style, and I love the notion also, I think, of using the period instruments, because that's I think
I'm surprised there's even instruments that still exist? I mean, are they renovated? I mean, do they like restore them, or do they make them from new, from scratch?
It takes a lot of love and care to get an instrument from that period into playing shape. But if you think about it, like the instruments of Stradivarius are still being played today.
Right.
A lot of those have been modernized. So if you're hearing like Joshua Bell play a Stradivarius, his has been modernized. The neck has been moved, and different strings have been put on it, and all of that. Okay. But there are some that are in original condition, and those are really fun to play. The Smithsonian has a few, and I know some of the folks over at the Smithsonian and have gotten to play some of them, and it's wild. You you feel the energy of like hundreds of years of really good violinists coursing through the veins of that instrument. It's pretty cool.
And I don't know how it is with violins and so forth, but I remember once hearing a recording. It was an album of a pianist playing Beethoven's piano sonatas. He had all of them on a period instrument. And what you realize is it does not sound the same. It is a very now the notes are the same, but the feel of it and the way the piano worked at the time is a very different feel. There's only so much you can do in volume, right? You can't just you can't press as hard on an old piano as you can on a new one. And it has a very it's not a harpsichord, if you know the ding 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 sound of a harpsichord. It's not a harpsichord, but it's somewhere between a modern piano and a harpsichord. You realize, and you just get this thrill where you're like, when Beethoven wrote this, that's how it sounded in his ears. It did not sound like you go hear it in a concert hall today. It sounded like that. And is it similar when you have is there a slight difference so that you get this sensation of, okay, that's what it would have sounded like at that era, as opposed to the modern, changed, updated version?
Yeah, and it can be shocking. I mean, we think of Beethoven as being bombastic and loud. And he was, for his day, he was maxing out the instruments of the day. I mean, that the forte piano of Beethoven's era, I'm sure that he broke more than one.
I would imagine. The way they were doing the violins probably popped some strings every once in a while.
Yeah. Well, and it's this change as concert halls got bigger. Violinists and pianists wanted to reach the back of the hall. And so they were looking for innovations that would make the sound louder, and that's how the instruments changed over time.
Absolutely, that's a good point. But I was thinking what you just said, right? I mean, I can imagine, because my suspicion is that the great composers hear what they want to write. It's not like they write and they say, "Let me see what it sounds," and that's not good, right? They hear what they want, so they're hearing it based on what is available at the time, right? And so you're right. I mean, so it's interesting to be curious to how did those, piano concertos or violin concertos, how did they sound at that time versus what they sound like today? But David's right. I mean, at that time, probably the halls were, you could fit maybe 100 people, and now it's like, you got, more than hundreds of people in these huge halls, and you have to, the guy in the back has to be able to hear it too.
Yeah. But the first time I touched a Baroque violin and just heard the sound of the Baroque bow hitting the organic strings, the gut strings, I was like, oh. You start to understand immediately what the composers were trying to say. It sometimes doesn't make sense on the modern instruments. You're like, well, this sounds good, but I'm not really sure why they wrote that. And you immediately get it. And then there are all these treatises that composers and theorists were writing about how music should be performed. And those are really interesting. Sometimes you actually find out by the way that someone complains about something that they're really, both things were happening, right? Like, some people were using this much vibrato and some people were using this much vibrato. The fact that somebody complained about it means that the other thing was happening.
Exactly. Well, sometimes you'll read the composer's, in his notes, you'll see his complaints I can't reach this note with this instrument, so I have to use a different one. And so you see, and then it makes you wonder, well, would he have used today's modern instrument for that note?
Yeah.
And he just couldn't, or would he have still stuck with what he ended up deciding on? So it's fascinating to think about it and just to go and experience what you bring in Early Music Access Project, that you can kind of go back in time a little bit and listen to both. The interesting part, obviously, this was an older piece, so this was a piece. Cupid and Dead was a mask written at that time for those instruments. But I know upcoming is going to be a new piece written in the style of that, but with some modern twists. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah,
this is where I start to lose people. They get a little confused. Like, wait, you're doing old music and you're doing new music? I even had somebody at the National Endowment for the Arts say to me, "You're going to have to really explain that to us." And I thought, okay, maybe I've gone too weird. But it's really fun to work with living composers because you can ask them questions. And so for this project, James Dargan has written us a new Latin Mass. So it's taking these ancient texts and some of the ancient techniques of setting these texts, but definitely putting a modern twist on it, taking advantage of the qualities of our old instruments, but really speaking to today. And James is someone who grew up in the black church tradition. His father was actually a scholar of black church music. He went around with his father doing like field recordings of historic black churches. And so this mass is infused with those sounds and with sort of the theology of the black church.
How interesting. So that kind of spiritual gospel tradition melded with techniques and forms that date from medieval times.
And we are combining this new work with some old works of Bach and Buxtehude. To kind of tie it all together and to make it make a little more sense what we're doing. And so the new and old will sort of speak to each other in that way.
Will those works be interspersed within or kind of bookending the Latin Mass?
They're going to be interspersed. It's a technique we sort of developed a couple of years ago. We did a concert of music from Monticello, sacred music from Monticello, and we took the Pergolesi Stabat Mater that was in Jefferson's collection and interspersed it with spirituals that would have been heard in Charlottesville and at Monticello at that time.
Wow.
And we liked that technique so much of melding new and old or different styles that we kept it for this project. It's the same musicians actually and the same composer. James actually did the arrangements of the spirituals for us 2 years ago.
Okay. That's interesting. That's amazing that he was able to come back and now compose a brand new work. For you guys to.
And who found the text?
For the
Mass.
So that is the traditional Latin Mass text. Okay. Although I will say there are a couple of surprises. I'll just say that the sort of the shout of glory that you hear in a black church, the Gloria has a bit of that in it.
Yes.
And there's a couple of other moments that are not exactly what you would expect from the Latin Mass text.
What is that? I mean, that is an old and greatly appreciated setting for music. I mean, I remember that Nicholas actually told me this once, that when the Catholic Church changed from the traditional Latin Mass in the 60s to the new De Novus Order, that they changed the way that the Mass was.
Right.
One of the greatest outcries, there was actually a petitionary letter for them not to do this, signed by not who you would expect, tons of artists and writers and musicians. But as they said, we have been writing music for this text for hundreds of years, and we want to continue doing it. Please don't change it. Right? And they changed it anyway for what you do in the Sunday Mass.
Right.
But there are still people like Arvo Part was the Oratory Society last year.
Yeah.
There are still composers who will write music who since then have continued to write a setting for the Latin Mass, even though when you go to Mass on Sundays, that is not typically the Mass that you hear anymore.
Yeah.
But it dates. I think it dates at least to the 1400s. Portions of it probably even earlier. So, but it's always the same with there's a couple changes here and there about how you can bring out certain elements of it.
I think every composer puts a little bit of a stamp on it. Beyond just their musical setting, they will find elements of the text or add some text in it to make it relevant to the time that they're in.
Exactly, yeah. To connect people to it, especially since it is in Latin.
Yeah.
So it has that you have to get over that little hump and just appreciate the music more. What are some of the instruments what's the arrangement that people can kind of expect?
So we have 3 amazing vocalists, excuse me, 2 violinists, viola da gamba, which is like a cello, but has 6 strings and frets.
Wow.
So it's like the best of a lute and a cello kind of put together. It's a gorgeous sound. And then we have a violone player, which is like a double bass version of that. So it has the frets as well.
Wow.
And organ.
And organ.
Yeah. We have an amazing organist. She is newly part of the faculty at University of Michigan. She's coming for this performance, and she'll be playing a beautiful small chamber organ at Christ Episcopal Church, but also the big organ at Christ Episcopal.
There will be both elements. Oh,
yeah.
Yes. And, I mean, for people who have never... It is a pleasure. It's I think a unique thing that you can do that you're hosting this at Christ Episcopal Church. That's where it's being performed, because I think one of the experiences that people very infrequently have is a large organ. Because most of the time, if you're going to a concert hall and it doesn't have an organ built into it, what you're going to hear is the chamber organ, the smaller one, which is still a beautiful sound. I mean, especially when it's in the background, it has great. But you don't quite get the force of someone pressing on an actual real organ. So the fact that you can do this in a setting with a large organ, I think people who attend are going to get a real treat.
It's definitely it's an immersive experience. Mm-hmm. It's coming at you from all angles. It fills the church with music, and every organ is designed for the church that it's in to fill that space. One of the coolest experiences I've had is hearing the organ at Duke Chapel, which is an enormous building. And that organ has been designed to fill that space.
Wow.
And the organist is almost disconnected from the sounds that are coming out of the pipes. They have to kind of like play ahead of what's happening in the room.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Well, that's the talent of great organists, because you have to be able to. You're actually slightly off from the rest of an orchestra when you play with them.
Yeah.
So you have to be
there's a delay
ahead of them,
the
because
sound,
there's a slight delay in what you can hear versus what you're playing.
Yep.
Wow.
Which is always a fascinating aspect of it. And I believe did I read it right that the composer is also singing?
Yes. Yeah,
he's one of the 3 vocalists?
Yeah, he's the baritone soloist for this concert. Wow. He's a really fantastic singer, and I asked him to write for himself. Mm-hmm. It's really fun to have composers write for themselves, because they know exactly what they can do.
I would think so. I would hope so, right?
Yeah. Although the funny part is he's been having a lot of back and forth conversations with the other 2 vocalists, and I think in some ways he's challenging them to go beyond slightly what they might be comfortable with, and he's probably written himself the most comfortable part. Sorry, James.
That's the advantage of being the composer, right? Ultimately, you're kind of in charge of how the notes are going to look on the page.
So the 3 vocalists are baritone, and what are the other 2?
We have a soprano and a countertenor.
Countertenor. That's a new word for me.
So this is a male singer who is singing basically mezzo-soprano parts.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is meant to sort of emulate the castrato sound of the Baroque era.
Okay, yes.
It's not the same. There is no substitute for that horrible practice.
Yes.
It created voices that had enormous range and enormous depth. And that is not the sort of falsetto range, the falsetto male range doesn't have that depth. But actually, Patrick Daly is one of the most rich countertenor voices I've ever heard, and he will be here for this concert.
Wow.
And it's he has made me believe in every word he's ever sung.
That's beautiful that you can do it. And I think that's another thing that people can appreciate when they attend something put on by Early Music Access Project, is that sometimes it's not only that you will hear older versions, like antique versions of instruments that you're familiar with, you will hear instruments and voices that you just don't hear anymore. In other words, like most modern pieces, even if you went to go hear tenors, you went to the opera, you're not going to get a lot of countertenors that are playing, that are in the opera. Most of the time, I think what used to be the castrati is now a female singer. They'll use a mezzo-soprano or something in the opera for what would have been a male part. Yeah. Right? Because obviously, like you said, we don't do that anymore, thankfully.
That is changing at places like the Met, though. They are hiring countertenors now
to do that.
If they do Baroque operas.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. And then you'll also hear instruments like the viola da gamba and so forth that almost are never. By the time you get to your most famous classical works, they're not being written for.
Yeah.
So you don't often hear those instruments. So it's a great way to experience. When I've listened to someone say, "Wow, I've never heard that sound before in my life," because how often do you hear that instrument which no longer is in the modern repertoire?
And as we know, listening live is so much different than listening like through a CD or your phone or whatever people listen these days, right? Because I know when we go to the symphonies, it's just you hear everything. You just partly maybe because visually you're also looking and you're hearing how that instrument sounds. But there's nothing like it. So when you're able to do something like this and listen to these old instruments and these voices, I mean, it's got to bring you back, right?
Yeah. And these instruments really are made for spaces like this.
Yeah.
I always use the word organic when I'm describing like a Baroque violin because it's got the sheep gut strings and everything is wood or horsehair or whatever. And there's not a lot of like metal and so forth on these instruments. And it really resonates in rooms like at Christ Episcopal where there's wood and stone. Those are the spaces, the kinds of spaces those instruments were designed for. And they're just really happy there and they resonate. There was a trade-off here, right? We got louder instruments, but that resonance, that sort of beauty of sound, there is no replacement for that. And we just have to play in halls that make sense for that, for those instruments.
Exactly. And I love that's what you're able to do and bring. I mean, and it's not like it's a tiny church, but you're bringing a sense of intimacy. I think sometimes when you do it in a setting that's not a massive concert hall, you feel a little closer to the music and to the musicians that are playing or singing in this case.
Yeah, I personally. It's a non-sustainable model, but I always love playing for just like 10 or 20 people in a house, and you can see every person's reaction to every note you play. It can be intimidating, but it's also just the most beautiful thing to just understand immediately the reactions and the impact that your music's having.
Absolutely.
I agree.
David, what else anything else that people should be aware of that's new or happening or that they should be looking forward to with early music?
Well, I will just mention it may be a few months before this comes to fruition, but last year back in June, we did a concert in the Rotunda of music from Monticello. This was all fiddle music from Monticello, from the black fiddlers who lived and worked there. And we recorded that concert. Virginia Humanities gave us money to turn that into a documentary. So that is coming. I don't know when. It's going to take a while to kind of finish up a few interviews and then edit it and put it all together and get it distributed. But people can look out for that. It's an opportunity for anyone, anywhere, to see what we do. It's a really beautiful project. We got to play in the Rotunda with the planetarium lights on the ceiling. Wow. The visuals are really stunning, and the music is great. We had experts in fiddling come in and work with us, and it's
just a whole new skill set.
Yeah,
an elevated skill set of that. Just amazing when you can see what they can do with a fiddle.
Yeah.
Although that's going to be really neat. So people should keep an eye on the documentary and sometime in the next few months.
Yeah.
Especially if you missed the fiddler concert.
Yes.
Last year, as I did, sadly. Keep an eye out for this.
Yeah, we were only able to squeeze in about 150 people to that concert because of the size of the rotunda and the size of the chairs at the rotunda. They're a little oversized. So at any rate, it'll be an opportunity for folks to hear that.
Absolutely, that's going to be fantastic.
And I just want to shout out about Cupid and Death. I almost forgot to do this. Because Charlottesville Ballet is here, we had a dancer from Charlottesville Ballet in our production. We had 2 dancers, and they were brilliant, and it was just really great to be able to collaborate in that way. And I'm just so thankful that we have dance in this community.
Yes.
I am a former dancer. I danced here in Charlottesville as a kid in the Mickey List Dance Company, and it's really cool to see that dance is still really a vibrant part of the community.
Well, yeah, it is a beautiful thing. It's something we have here that not every city of our size can say that they have this quality and like Charlottesville Ballet has of dance here that you can experience.
Yeah,
but that's a great helpful segue for us because I mean
that's what I'm here for, to help.
Exactly. We said, how can we segue to Charlottesville Ballet? Well, let's just have David come on. But David, where can people? Really important because I know the Mass is coming up on Sunday, March 10th. Are there still tickets available, or do people need to look for at the door tickets? For that?
We have online and at the door. EarlyMusicCVille.org is the website for that. All of our social media is Early Music CVille, so we're easy to find. Tickets are definitely still available, and we would love to have people come out. I just want to, reiterate, this is a concert of sacred music, but it's not a church service, so you don't have to feel like you have to believe every word that's being said. Please just come and enjoy the beautiful music, regardless of your tradition. It's going to be a really phenomenal concert.
Yeah, when you listen to a traditional Latin Mass, you do not have to go up and get communion. It's not. They don't actually do that part. It's just the music.
There's no sermon.
Yes, there's no sermon.
All right, there you are.
Well, David, thank you so much again for coming on. Always love having you and learning about it.
It's always fun to be here. Yeah,
Alrighty.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. And be sure to check out a Mass on Sunday, March 10th at 7:30 at Christ Episcopal Church, earlymusiccville.org. Thanks so
great.
much, David.
I mean, the thought of that organ in that church.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
awesome.
I love. I mean, there's been a couple of times where I've had the opportunity of listening to an organ in a particular church, and it's just the older the organ, the more you realize how powerful these instruments when you're there. You just sit there and go, wow,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we'll go ahead and transition here.
By the way, didn't you also? Yeah. When you were in Germany, did you not?
I did. I experienced an organ in Germany. I was lucky enough. I was fortunate. So my beautiful wife's uncle is an organist. He is the music director and organist. I mean, he plays like 5 instruments, but like the organist for her local church in Bavaria.
Yeah, I remember you told me that.
We were lucky enough that when we attended Mass there the morning before we had to leave, and he let us sit in the choir loft.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, just the power that you feel when you hear the organ right next to you.
I know.
It's an amazing experience. And he was really nice about it. He had found out from us what what hymn they had played when Elizabeth walked down the aisle in our actual wedding.
Okay.
And he played that song as the not the entrance, but the exit hymn.
Okay.
As soon as the service ended, he played that song.
Oh,
he knew it. He knew how to play it on the organ.
That's a ringtone on your phone, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, that's what she calls. Okay, that's how I always know.
Just for your wife.
Exactly. Just for my wife. Exactly. It's my wife's
Nobody
ringtone.
else.
That's how I know she's calling. Okay, it's Elizabeth.
Exactly. A couple of shout-outs here. Linda McCormick, thanks for watching this morning. David Wood, Catherine Miranda, Enrique Reynosa, Bill McChesney, Terry Tidner, Mike Romaine, Bill Stewart. Thank you all so much for tuning in this morning. And I believe Provi Garcia Sedarra from Spain watching this morning.
Wow.
So we have muchísimas gracias. So we've got all the way from Spain viewing us this morning. Love when we have our international audience. It's
absolutely,
always
no doubt about it. Yeah.
Always an exciting moment. And another exciting thing is to take up David's fantastic segue. We were really happy to bring onto the show this morning Emily Hartka. She is co-founder and one of the directors at Charlottesville Ballet. Emily, thanks so much for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me. Con mucho gusto.
Mira que bien. Podemos hablar en español ahora.
Malísima. No.
Careful, Xavier will do the whole interview.
No, por favor, no. Let's see. Mi au pair Susana es de Colombia. Ella es mi maestra, pero soy una estudiante malísima. That's all I got.
We'll leave it at that. Okay.
I've been so excited to have you on because I was lucky enough to serve with Sarah, one of the other co-founders for CIC Community Investment Collaborative, and always wanted to have you guys on. Because I'm a big fan of the Nutcracker, and you put that on every year and did a beautiful job this past
it was fabulous.
December. But I said, you know what, let's find a time when we have a lot of things coming up. Yes. And I know you have definitely some things coming up, some performances coming up at Charlottesville Ballet, but maybe for those who are kind of new to the program, maybe haven't been to the Nutcracker yet, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and how you and Sarah founded the Charlottesville Ballet.
Sure. Well, Sarah and I, this is now our 16th season.
Wow.
We are co-founders and directors. I was like 20 when we founded this company, and our whole mission is health and wellness. It is it's Eating Disorders Awareness Week, so that is happening 26th through March 3rd.
Okay.
So I struggled with 10 years of that, and we, multiple ankle surgeries and injuries are so common because this field, yes, it's the arts, but they're also athletes.
Yeah.
And so this has been a grand journey to see, could we make a healthy ballet company? And now 16 years into this grand experiment, we have, a $1.6 million organization. We have a professional company of dancers from all across the world. That's why Sarah couldn't be here today. She's auditioning candidates for next season. And then, in addition, we have extensive community work. So we have a school now with 700 students, ages 1.5 to 92. And then in the public schools, we're back now with Chance to Dance. We have a movement for Parkinson's class. We do a Silver Swans with the center at Belvedere.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And we're now back touring with libraries and community centers, and all of our CB Moves is the free engagement programs that we do across the state of Virginia. So it's a big, tendrils of programs.
Yes.
And
well, I think that's one of the things I loved best about it, is that it's ballet, right? And so you have the professional ballet, you have
the Nutcracker.
Exactly. But you do a lot to say, all right, how can we bring in the community and introduce them to dance and ballet without all the pressure that comes with, if you think about like the big famous ballet companies, that no ordinary person could ever access that.
Well, right, that's the whole mission. Like, the ballerina does not have to be a skinny white woman. Like, that is their history, and that is the beautiful heritage that we have. But we wanted to say, how can we challenge that and bring it to modern day, so that the normal people, the civilians, are like, oh, I love the ballet, and that we see different body shades and sizes and shapes, and that's really what we're all about, is community building through ballet.
The other thing I like about it, so I was very fortunate because my parents worked in that field when they were in New York, so I got to go to operas and ballets, right? And the nice thing about, I like operas, but I like ballets even better, only because especially when you're young, right? The opera can sometimes be a little overwhelming. There's just a lot of singing, a lot going on, and they don't speak your language, so you got to be reading libretto, and it felt like homework more than enjoyment sometimes, right? However, when you go to ballet, you're actually watching people dance, right? But the thing that I thought always was intriguing to me, or what I liked about it, was I enjoyed the music, right? So in the background, you listen to this beautiful music, but you're watching people dance, right? So I always said that ballet is a great introduction, in my opinion, right, to classical music, to let people say, hey, let's go watch this performance. It's people dancing, and I mean, they're beautiful. I mean, ballet is, they're wonderful dancers, right? And what they do is like most people just can't do, right? And so you watch this tremendous athletes dance, right? But you're also listening to this classical music, and it just gets you into like, wait, that was,
to it.
Like Alex. I mean, what is your favorite ballet of all? Let's be honest. Swan Lake.
Oh, I can listen to that. I have an annual ritual at least twice a year. I don't even need to be watching.
When you were young, it seemed like every week there was some piece of Swan Lake on being played.
Absolutely. And I agree completely. It's that beautiful combination of the visual with the musical together. And accessible, because it's true, you don't need to know a foreign language.
Right.
It's universal.
To comprehend it. Yeah. Absolutely. So you mentioned it, some of the groups that Charlottesville Ballet serves in the community. What are different ways that people get involved and connected?
I think our education programs are the biggest thing. So we now, we've been up Route 29 North studios there, and we expanded to, I walked here, from Ix Art Park. We have a studio there, so that's been a big opportunity for expansion. We have over 150 classes a week. Wow. So that's been a huge entry point. Like, yay, come see the Nutcracker, and then sign up for the adult ballet class. Or, hey, my dad just got diagnosed with Parkinson's. Like, I'm going to come to that Friday afternoon free class. So we have a lot of people that come see a performance, and then they're like, oh, wait, let's engage with these other educational offerings. And then we're doing a lot of work, again, in the community. So we're going to the public schools, we're at the libraries, we're doing a collaboration with TomTom. And then this upcoming outdoor series that we'll chat about is a wonderful thing. So Sarah, this is the second time. We did it in 2022. During the COVID era, right? We were all coming out of COVID, and we said, we're making dance happen. We're going to do the outdoor series, and this was Emily's crazy brain. Said, let's bring like all these arts partners, the symphony, the opera, the oratorio society, and let's bring them outside, because nobody wants to have fear. Like, I got to take my kid to daycare. I can't risk getting sick, but we are going to make the arts happen. So it was super family friendly, like, there's wine, bring the dog. It was perfect. So Charlottesville. And we basically constructed an outdoor venue hosted at Mary Mill Farm and Vineyards. The Pelly family, they're students, and they are hosting the second 2024 outdoor series. That'll be April 26th through 28th.
So tell us what can people expect? I mean, it's talk about collaboration. I mean, it is yourselves. I know it's Charlottesville Symphony, Charlottesville Opera, Front Porch, UVA Chamber Seniors, Oratorio Society, Virginia.
Is this like continues for 3 days? You just keep going, or?
It's a bunch of shows. It basically starts Friday night at 7:00 with the ballet and song. So that'll be the Front Porch and the Oratorio, UVA Chamber Singers. So again, this is our vision of collaborative performances, kind of like David was saying, of let's get the dancers, let's get the singers, let's get, all these different people together and creating some commissioned works, some new works that tell the stories of our time, not just the beautiful, the swan is lovely, but what are some of these unique programs that we can commission, composing and singing and dancing all together. So it'll start Friday night at 7:00. There's a show Saturday morning. We're actually partnering with UVA's Accessible Theater Project. We'll have a free sensory-friendly show of our Snow White, which is really important to us to make sure that we're doing that kind of work. And then 3:00 will be a ballet plus symphony. So that's all the other collaborators, including we missed Heifetz over the mountain. Heifetz Institute will be collaborating with the youth orchestras of Central Virginia. And there's everything from like a bassoon ensemble to tap dancing to you name it. There's
so it's kind of like a series of shorter
about an hour-long concert, and it's programmed. We're working on some of those collaborations, nailing them down now to say, hey, opera folks, what do you guys actually, now that you have your singers booked and flying them in from New York or wherever they're flying in from, and what can our audiences expect to see from each person? Each group will have their own version of the, 10 minutes of their own material, and then these curated collaborations with different groups from all directions. So
that's pretty neat.
That's really cool.
That's a good idea.
It's been really fun, and I think like one of the pieces is called Sorrowful Songs. It's a Heinrich Gorecki score that our pianist, her name is Catherine Nee, she's worked with us for 10 years.
Yes, we've had her on the show actually before.
So Catherine has created, this has been 5 years in the making. It premiered back in February, and it'll be hosted outside, but it'll be her creating a 5-minute basically score condensed from a full symphony with Christina Fleming as the soprano. So she's taken the Polish text from what was written on a Gestapo prison cell. So it's this beautiful blending and basically condensing down into the Sorrowful Songs project that one of our dancers, Catherine Tokar Conley, has made a beautiful work. So it's a soprano, a pianist, and a dancer that are telling this story.
Wow.
And it's one of those, it makes me tear up just thinking
beautiful.
about it. So these are the types of collaborations and things we always love to do, and then having commissions and arts partners that help present those to our audiences.
That's amazing.
Wow, that really is.
Yeah, I love the idea that you can experience, and it's a good way, I think, a good introductory way for people maybe who haven't gone to a full-fledged performance to get a taste of everything. This is a little bit of what opera might be like.
Exactly. My husband's like, I'm not an opera guy. I'm like, but come, and if you get these little bite-sized things, and then now he's like, yeah, you know what? I do like opera. So I look at that of like, okay, I don't know much about the Oratorio Society, but then you see their 55 singers with this beautiful outdoor thing, with wine and the dogs and the kids. And it's like, okay, I've been to this and now I can go see more. I can seek out more in my community.
Absolutely, because it's a good way to get a sense for it, like you said, bring the kids so that they can experience it, especially if they haven't before. Yes. It's a way for them to experience it for the first time.
Yes. Yeah. You're not worried of like, we got to quickly exit the Paramount because my 3-year-old might have a meltdown. Like, you're outside, just go to the tasting room and you can still hear the beautiful symphony playing. Yeah. You can hear those musicians.
Yeah. And you get, like you said, you get a taste of everything. They'll see some dancing, some singing, and some piano and some. I mean, that's just great.
Yeah.
That was a great idea.
Excited.
And then I know one of the things happening on Sunday is going to be then a Snow White at the Vineyard.
Yes, we'll be doing an abridged version. So we'll have the full production of Snow White. We'll be at the Paramount on May 4th. Okay. So we'll do, we're calling it At the Vineyard to give folks a clue. It'll be about an hour-long abridged version. Typically, we'll have over 100 kids performing in the full production, but we can't fit them on the outdoor stage or house them at the beautiful vineyard. So we'll have it'll be an abridged version, not as many 100 children partnering along with us, but it'll be a bridge version, and it will include at the beginning or the end, we'll have a little lecture demonstration where everyone will get to stand up. You'll learn something like, this is first position, this is plie, this is releve. Okay. So again, everything we do, we really do have the education bent to say like, hey, get up, grandpa, get up and learn how to do first position, and getting the ideas of here's what it takes to create these productions and having people have that physical kinetic experience. So that'll be all inclusive, about an hour. That's the Snow White at the Vineyard. And wine is included for parents. In your ticket.
Wow. There you go.
Oh, there you are. That'll make you dance.
Yes, right. If nothing else,
That's
wine
right.
and some little lective to let you learn some dance.
Yep. Well, no, I mean, my nonprofit experience with Charlottesville was direct. Usually, wine included gets people out of Charlottesville. I have to say it is a useful tool.
Yes, and they'll be awesome. Mary Mill now has feasts. They purchase feasts, and so they have amazing food. You can order anything, bottle service. So Mary Mill, if you have not been, is just a lovely venue. It's so whimsical, and it'll be the perfect venue to host these 8 arts partners.
Yeah, beautiful place to put it all together.
And just a question. So on May 4th at the Paramount is the full version of, and there's 100 kids?
There are 100 children in cities from Culpeper to Lynchburg to here.
Wow. That are part of
the full cast.
Full cast, okay.
Yes. And in addition to our dancers there's 22 dancers from across the U.S. and around the world in the company, in the training program. So
that'll be interesting.
It is a large operation, and we have amazing staff and supporters.
I can imagine.
So do you, I'm guessing it's not 100 professional kids. So do you sort of like bring in from the children that like learn from you and the lessons sort of
we have auditions to
help them to audition to be part of it?
2 cities. They happened in January. We had to shut down the audition. Wow. Same with Nutcracker. They happen usually in like August or September, and we have like hundreds of kids audition for limited parts, and we try every year to accommodate and get as many kids, because that's how they get hooked, and that's how we all learn to appreciate the arts. So I think it's 97 students in this production of the Nutcracker. Not all of them are in every show because, again, the Paramount's only so big.
Yep. Sure, but, exactly,
there's a cast of 97 that will be performing alongside the professional company in various casts and various shows. So it'll be amazing. And it's the beautiful production. Our ballet master, his name is Vadim Berchu. He's from the Republic of Moldova. He created this production for us back in 2013. And so this will be the third year that we've produced it, and making changes every time, little tweaks. And this year we have to tweak to make more parts for kids.
Absolutely. Who's the
composer is a Hungarian, I'm going to botch his name, but it's a Polish or Hungarian composer. It starts with a B, and I will have to follow up with you.
Okay, I'm just
the music. It's not Tchaikovsky.
Okay, I know Tchaikovsky did 2 fairy tales, but I don't think he did.
No, I didn't do Snow White.
Snow White.
Yeah.
Postpartum brain. I can't remember. I can see it, but it is not commonly performed in the U.S. So it's not like your Swan Lake or your Nutcracker.
Yeah.
But it's such a beautiful production because there's a romantic love story, but there's so many animals, and the dwarves are hysterical. Everybody knows the story of Snow White.
Absolutely.
And it's a really nice connection to say, like, oh, I've seen the Disney. It's not too far off from the Disney story. Some of the ballets are quite different. You know, the kids come and they're like, where are the 3 fairies at Sleeping Beauty? And you have to explain to the children, like, actually, this was written way before Disney.
Yes.
So it is very similar. It follows kind of that same trajectory and similar characters. You know, you'll see all the highlighted characters that you love and,
that you would
expect.
Yeah.
But
which will make it easier for people to follow too. There's no, you don't have to figure out what's happening.
Yes. But it's still, there's no words. And we have kids who are like, why didn't they talk, Mama? You're like, but it's this beautiful thing where they can follow the story. Even the 2-year-olds are like, I want to meet Dopey. Like, okay. Yeah. So there's a lot of, the storytelling is there. We all know and love the story, but then how it's shown on stage is just a beautiful production.
Oh, that's gonna be fantastic. And at the Paramount.
Yes, we'll be at the Paramount May 4th, and then we are actually the resident dance company down in Lynchburg at the Academy Center of the Arts. So we'll take it on tour for May 11th, which will close our season for 23-24. For
23-24,
16th anniversary season.
So closer to the season, when does the season begin, though? Because
We will
it feels
begin,
like,
yes. Well, good question.
What do you get, a week off?
Yeah, it never really ends, right, with nonprofit life. But we will, we typically open, the dancers will come back in August for preseason training. So our medical director, again, health and wellness, we try to bring in our artists, have a whole preseason conditioning because they're athletes, and then we'll usually start around October, November. We're still planning that right now for next season. But
that's wonderful. And I like the health and wellness focus. I mean, sometimes you hear when you read the history of ballet just how badly bodies were damaged by the time they were done with their careers. So it's nice that you're like the goal is to have them still doing ballet at 92, not that you're burned out at 30 and it's
several
over.
hip surgeries later, but yes. Yeah, I mean that is why Charlottesville Ballet exists today. So Sarah and I really wanted to see, and it's been, we're a nonprofit. There's not always the services. We have great in-kind donors, and trying to get them as much cross-season and training, but it is changing hearts and minds. Ballet, especially our older generations, that you came up, you do ballet a certain way, and when you rotate your feet out, it has to be 180 degrees, so a perfect line. And all of the science that we know now, with PTs and doctors say, only 1% of the population actually has hip sockets that do that. 1%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are in our school of 700 kids. You can do the math. How many actually have the capacity to do ballet as it was stated?
That's right. Yeah.
So that's really our whole vision, and it starts with the little kids in the parent in me class that I'm a ballerina now, all the way up to the 92-year-olds and the professional company. Is how do we? Yes, this is your body. What can your body do to execute this beautiful art form? How can we respect the art form, but also not cause you to have a hip replacement at 40?
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's changing hearts and minds. I mean, we still have dancers that are, dancing right now in the studio that say, this is how I train, this is how I grew up, and changing that narrative of what does ballet look like and what can we do? This is how Charlottesville does ballet.
There you go. Absolutely. So remind us again, so the outdoor series, tickets, I'm guessing, are still available.
They are on sale. The free performance is almost maxed out.
Okay.
And we've still got our partners with Via and the other folks to work with. So tickets are on sale, charlottesvilleballet.org/tickets is probably your best landing
very
site.
easy.
And it's April 26th through 28th. There is a rain plan, because everyone's asking me. Tickets, if we do rain out, we will have all tickets to the entire weekend. We'll have a open performance on Friday night, May 3rd at the Paramount.
Okay.
So if you buy your ticket to the Ballet Plus song and it rains out on Friday night, you can come the following Friday to the Paramount indoors.
Oh, okay, perfect.
That's great.
Oh, yeah. Your ticket doesn't go to waste. If it rains out,
and if you can't use it, give it to your neighbor and they can come see it at the Paramount. So you'll get to see the Snow White production at the Paramount regardless of rain. So lots of people are like, well, I'm not buying tickets, so we look at the weather. I'm like, buy your ticket and then.
You have a backup
because all of us, you plan, it's so last minute now these days, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So so Friday, Friday, April 26th at 7, looks like. Saturday, April 27th, you got 11 a.m.
For the sensory friendly.
The sensory friendly, and then at 3 p.m., and then you got 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. on the 28th. So, I mean, you have 3 days, but there's a bunch of performances.
Yeah. You can game the nap time, you can game the sports events, you can game all the things you need to.
Nap time,
and we're so excited to present that with our partners. So not just come see the ballet, but come see all of our arts partners at the outdoor series.
That's going to be wonderful. That's going to be
fantastic,
wonderful.
Yeah.
So, and then people can find out more. What's the best place if people also are interested in finding out more about classes and things you do?
Just our general charlottesvilleballet.org is the homepage. You can see all about Charlottesville Ballet Academy for education programs, CB moves, all of the community work that we do, and the free community engagement programs.
CharlottesvilleBallet.org. Okay.
CharlottesvilleBallet.org. And spell it all out. It's not single.
Yes.
CharlottesvilleBallet.org.
And all of our we're Charlottesville Ballet, we're CVille Ballet, all the socials as well.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, Emily, it's been such a pleasure.
I've
been looking forward to having you on. Wow. I'm so glad we did.
It's exciting, yeah.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks for all you do in the community. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Give our best to Sarah,
We will do.
All righty. So as we go ahead and...
wow, a lot of stuff going on.
I know.
See, I mean, it's just like, this is what happens. Like spring comes, right? And all of a sudden, boom, all these things are available.
Well, I thought you were talking about the energy, the excitement.
Yeah.
All right. Extra
and
shout out.
I thought that collaboration was fantastic. The idea,
right?
Yes. I mean, so you go there, you get to see some singing and some dancing and some piano playing and whatever else they're going to do. I mean, that's a great way to really expose anybody to different parts of the arts.
Well, it's this, I mean, think about it. You like bringing your family outdoor to a beautiful place like Maryville, and now you can do so in a way that introduces them to. Sometimes, if when you don't know where your kids might gravitate to.
Right.
You might have someone who likes ballet but not opera. You might have someone who likes a kid who's bored by opera, but for some reason, like our cousin in New York is fascinated by opera. He loves his opera.
Yeah.
So there's all those different variations. So they can try to see where they may fit in the arts and experience what is a fantastic tradition of music that has been passed down for so many generations.
Very well said.
I love it. A couple more shout outs. Frances Perry, thanks for watching the show this morning. Dr. Elizabeth Urpí, thanks for watching the show this morning. She liked the talk about the time in Germany. So that was a beautiful time. I enjoyed it as well.
No, I can imagine. Like I said, I just remember you did that and just a few times that I think one was in Spain. I forget what the other one was where I just heard an organ play. And it's like, wow. And I was at a place, like I said, it was just, I didn't even know there was an organ. All of a sudden the organ starts playing. It was
just so beautiful.
Oh, man.
It's nothing quite like it. Nothing quite like it. And there's many opportunities now to experience it here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from March all the way through May.
That's right.
You now know what you can enjoy. And I'm sure there will be more. I know we're going to have soon in the next few weeks, I think, in the show, we'll have Oratorio Society of Virginia will be coming on to talk about their May concert.
The opera.
Charlottesville Opera is going to be coming on to talk about their new season. Yeah. So it's
a lot going on. Yeah, I mean, this is, I always said that for a small city, right, which Charlottesville is compared to most other cities, the ability to really capture so many things that people may like, whether it be, again, you got UVA sports. So if you like baseball, basketball, football, you got that, right? So, you can have that. The music, the ability to listen to different, to see ballets, operas, symphonies, which we have. It's just, you live here, you feel like you live in a big city without the traffic, without the hassles, and you can enjoy life so much more.
Exactly.
Not that I want everybody to move to Charlottesville, because I like the fact that there's not a lot of people to, so I'm not trying to get everybody here.
This is not a sales pitch to move to Charlottesville.
I'm just saying it's a great place, but don't come. No, don't come to live.
This is fantastic to stay away. Don't come.
Hey, I don't want 4 million people in Charlottesville.
But we're blessed to be here. So this is why we love doing today Mañana. We get to experience all this.
Absolutely.
Next week we're going to have on Adrienne Strawn from the Danes Group. Who's going to be joining us.
Okay.
So looking forward to that. Some more another fantastic small business, I believe, here in Charlottesville. So we're looking forward to that. And we'll be seeing everyone then. I don't know. It might not be Xavier. I think
I'm not here next week. That's
right. It will probably be Michael and myself. So be sure
Michael's
to look forward
with me.
to that.
Michael's
with you.
Yes.
So it's going to be the one and only Nick.
Yes, the one and only.
The one and only Nick Urpí is going to be joining us next week on the show. So be sure to look out for that.
You're going to get all his fans saying, "Great, I can come up to the show next week." There you are. Now I can watch it. Not that guy, Xavier.
But we appreciate, of course, just the opportunity to be here on the I Love CVille Network set. Appreciate Judah behind the camera doing all the great work, making
always.
Xavier and I look good. Our guests always look good, but Xavier and I need a little work. And then, of course, many thanks to Emergent Financial Services, to Matthias on Realty, Craddock Serious Insurance, Forward Adelante. We appreciate all of you. We look forward to seeing you next week. Do your best to stay warm, enjoy the warmth of spring that is on its way. We look forward to seeing you then, but as we like to close it out on the show, hasta mañana.
Ciao, boys.